To understand why two men get married in a Himalayan village every spring, you have to go back. All the way back. To a winter so cold that water vessels turned to stone overnight, to a farmer who noticed something in the snow one morning that he could not explain, and to the decision he made in response to it that would echo for 5,000 years. The story, as it has been told in Kinnaur across uncountable generations, begins with an ordinary man. An old farmer in a small village with a little land, some sheep and goats, a family. A life measured in seasons. He woke, worked, returned home. Nothing remarkable, until the year the extraordinary winter came. More snow than anyone had seen before. Frost so severe that the paths between houses became impassable. Crops destroyed, food running low, the sheep huddled in their pens, thinning from the cold. And those long dark nights when the wind came down from the peaks and made sounds that no one wanted to interpret too carefully. One morning, the farmer went out to check his animals and found footprints in the snow near the pen. Not human footprints, something lighter. Something that had moved with a grace that left barely any impression at all, as though whatever made them was only half in this world while it walked. His animals, he noticed, were calmer than they had been in weeks. They had not shivered through the night. They had eaten. He went to the village elders. He described what he had seen. The elders listened, looked at each other, and said simply a Sauni was here. The farmer went home and sat with that knowledge for a long time. He thought about everything the winter had taken from the village, the crops, the warmth, the ease of movement, the comfort of not fearing tomorrow. And then he thought about everything the village had somehow kept. The animals were alive. The families were alive. The children had made it through. And some of that, perhaps most of that, was because of a presence that asked for nothing in it. Return. A presence that came every year, did its work without recognition, and left in the spring without a word of thanks from anyone. The thought settled over him like guilt and then like resolve. When spring came, when the snow pulled back and the Saunis turned toward their high meadows, he gathered the village together. He said we owe them something. Not payment, you cannot pay a Sauni, but acknowledgement, a ceremony, a farewell that says we know you were here and we are grateful and we ask you to come back. The village agreed, and together with flowers gathered from the slopes, with milk in clay vessels, with handmade ornaments left at the edge of the meadow, they held the first Raulane. It was simple. It was small. It was quiet. But it carried something that could not be measured, the full weight of a community's gratitude, expressed in the only language that gratitude truly speaks action. That first ceremony became the seed of everything that followed. In the years after, the village refined it, added layers, found ways to make the invisible visible, to give the Saunis a form they could speak to and dance before. And out of that need came the central invention of Raulane, the Raula and the Raulane. The question the community faced was this: how do you perform a farewell for something you cannot? See? How do you dance before a presence that has no form? Their answer was both practical and profound. Two members of the village would become vessels. They would not represent the Saunis from a distance. They would embody them. For the duration of the festival, they would step out of their individual identities entirely and allow the divine to move through them. One would take the role of the Raula, the groom, symbol of strength and protection. The other would become the Raulane, the bride, symbol of the divine feminine and celestial grace. Both roles have always been played by men, and both faces have always been completely covered. The covered face is the heart of Raulane's philosophy, and it deserves to be understood fully. The village offers two explanations, and both are true simultaneously. The first is protective. The Saunis, when they feel a powerful bond with a human soul, are said to try to take that person with them when they leave, to carry them back to the world beyond the snowline, a place from which no human returns. The covered face protects the chosen man. If the Sauni cannot recognize the human beneath the costume, she cannot claim him. The second explanation is spiritual. When you stand in the presence of the divine, you do not parade your face. You do not bring your name, your status, your personal history into that space. You erase yourself. The covered face is an act of total humility, a declaration that in this moment, the individual has no importance. Only the vessel matters, only what moves through it. These two explanations together form something remarkable, a philosophy that is simultaneously about protection and surrender. Protect the human by hiding him. Honor the divine by erasing him. In one gesture, the tradition holds both instincts, the human impulse to survive and the spiritual impulse to dissolve. 5,000 years of practice have not produced a better way to say it. Weeks before the festival, the village elders gather to choose who will carry these roles. The selection is not made lightly and is not made by any single person. It belongs to the entire community. Candidates are considered carefully. Family background, years of conduct, the kind of person they are known to be. But what the elders are truly watching for are signs, what they call the Saunis signal. Perhaps someone has had an unusual dream. Perhaps a rare wildflower bloomed near their home in the dead of winter when nothing should be growing. Perhaps something happened to them during the year that the village considers a mark of invisible. Attention, a near miss with an accident that felt guided, an animal behaving strangely in their presence, a moment of unexpected grace. When the elders reach consensus, the chosen men are told they cannot refuse. This is not a burden being placed on them. It is an honor being given, and in Kinnaur, those two things are not opposites. They understand that the greatest honors are also the heaviest ones. The preparation begins immediately. The Raulane, the one who takes the bride's role, is dressed in layers that represent the full depth of Kinnauri tradition. First comes the doru, a hand-woven shawl with an embroidered border that falls to the heels. Over it, the choli, a full-sleeved coat like blouse. Then the patu, a thick waist shawl, and the gachi, a woven belt that binds everything together. Each piece is made from Kinnauri wool that was spun and dyed and woven in the same valley where the sheep that produced it were born. But the jewellery stops the breath. The ornaments placed on the Raulane are ancestral. They belong to families, passed down through generations, sometimes for centuries. Silver pieces named Daglo Bithri, Kantai. Each one has a history. Each one has been worn at previous Raulanes, at weddings, at funerals, at every significant crossing of the threshold between ordinary life and sacred life. Their combined weight can reach several kilograms. To wear them is not decoration. It is an act of carrying your family's entire history on your body. Every ancestor who wore these pieces is present in them. Every winter they survived. Every spring they gave thanks. The headpiece is assembled from wildflowers that the young people of the village trek up the Yungpi mountain slopes to gather in the days before the festival. Chinka, small white flowers. Narkasang, bright yellow. Bakrikan, colorful cotton seeds that catch the light. This gathering is itself a tradition embedded within the tradition. The mountain gives the flowers. The flowers go onto the Raulane's head. The Raulane becomes the bridge between the mountain and the ceremony. The Raula is dressed more austerely but no less meaningfully. Heavy Kinnauri wool garments. A red gachi that covers his face entirely, leaving not a centimeter of skin visible. And at his side, a rakas, a small dagger. Carried not as a weapon, but as a declaration, I am here to protect. Whatever forces of darkness might try to disrupt this sacred moment will not find an easy passage. Both men wear gloves. Every inch of skin is hidden. The transformation must be total. Because the moment the final piece of costume is in place, the person who wore that costume ceases to exist. What stands in their place is something else entirely. The morning of Raulane arrives like no other morning in Kinnaur's year. The village has been preparing for days. Courtyards are swept clean. Their packed earth floors washed with water and then dusted with fine white rice flour in delicate patterns. The Naginnar Iron Temple, the ancient stone and wood structure that serves as the festival's sacred center, is cleaned and decorated. Rare wildflowers are placed at its entrance. Women sit in circles sorting grain, because the meals of Raulane require a purity of ingredient that ordinary cooking does not demand. Men repair drums and tune instruments that have been in their families for generations. Children race through the lanes in a state of barely contained excitement, already mimicking the slow, swaying gestures of the masked dancers they have watched since they were old enough to stand. Then, from the separate sarings, the distinct quarters of the village, the Raula and Raulane, emerge. The Kinnauri village is divided into sections called sarings, and the Raula and Raulane come from different ones. This is deliberate. Their meeting at the temple is the symbolic meeting of the whole community, every part of the village converging at its sacred center, no division remaining. Every saring united in a single act of shared gratitude. The structure of the procession encodes this meaning before a single word of prayer is spoken. They move through the village lanes at a pace that is barely faster than stillness. Each step is placed with the kind of attention usually reserved for the most serious moments of a human life. Their hands move slowly, tracing gestures that have no choreographer, no notation, no school where they are taught. The movements come from somewhere deeper than learning. They come from accumulated memory, from the thousands of times this ritual has been performed, leaving its trace in the very air of the valley. available to anyone willing to slow down enough to receive it. The dhol damau, Kinnaur's traditional double-headed drums, beat behind them. The sound is low and rhythmic and old, the kind of sound that bypasses the thinking mind and speaks directly to something older inside the body. It travels up the slopes and into the cedar forests, and the people believe, further still reaching the high meadows where the Saunis are preparing to depart, telling them we are coming, we see you, we have not forgotten. At every house along the route, the procession pauses. The family of that house steps forward. They touch the feet of the Raula and Raulane not as a social gesture, but as an act of devotion, acknowledging the Saunis who moved through their home during the winter, who kept their animals warm, who stood watch over their sleeping children on the coldest nights. Flowers are placed at the masked figures' feet. Women throw sattu, finely ground barley flour, over them in an arc. The way color is thrown during Hori, filling the air with a soft golden cloud, and people laugh. They call out to the Raula, they tease him affectionately. They try to make him smile beneath the cloth that hides his face, because one of Raulane's most beautiful beliefs holds that if the Raula laughs during the procession, the harvest will be abundant. Joy in this tradition is not frivolous. Joy is auspicious. Joy is something the Saunis recognize as healthy in the humans they protect. Alongside the procession move the Zanpundulu, additional masked figures whose role is to chase away malevolent spirits that might attempt to disrupt the ceremony. Their masks are carved from wood, the features sharp and vivid and slightly unsettling, a reminder that not all invisible presences are benevolent. The Saunis bring protection. The Zanpundulu remove obstruction. Between them, the path is cleared for the gratitude to travel cleanly from the human world to the divine one. When the procession reaches the Nagan Narayan temple, everything changes. The laughter softens, the drums drop in volume, the beat becoming something closer to a heartbeat than a rhythm. People arrange themselves outside the temple walls with a quietness that is not imposed but felt. A collective recognition that what is about to happen belongs to a different register of experience than what came before. The children stop running. Even the youngest ones seem to understand. Without being told that they have arrived at the center of something, inside, the Raula and Raulane begin their dance. There is no choreography, no instructor ever designed these movements, no notation exists. The dance has never been rehearsed, because rehearsal would imply that it belongs to the performers, and it does not. It belongs to the tradition, it belongs to the Saunis. The movements come through the dancers rather than from them. And every person who has ever watched this dance from the edge of the temple courtyard has described a moment, usually after a few minutes of watching, when the intellectual effort of observing drops away and something else begins. A settling, a recognition, a sense of touching something that was there before you arrived and will remain long after you leave. As though the dance is not being performed for an audience but is simply happening the way weather happens, the way the seasons happen, and the audience has the privilege of standing inside it for a few minutes. The steps are slow, the hands rise and fall, the bodies turn and pause and turn again. Each movement corresponds to a single breath. The Raula and Raulane move as though they are listening to something that no one else can hear, as though the instructions are arriving from somewhere above the temple roof, from the direction of the high meadows, from the Saunis themselves. The community believes that this dance opens a passage, that in the space created by the slow movements, the particular quality of the silence, and the weight of 5,000 years of accumulated intention, the boundary between the human world and the Saunis world becomes thin, not broken, thin. Enough for something to pass through, gratitude in one direction, blessing in the other. When the dance concludes, the village elders step forward. They address the Saunis directly, through the masked figures who have carried them through the village all morning. They speak the words that have been spoken at every Raulane for as long as anyone's memory reaches. We thank you for the winter. We thank you for our animals, our children, our harvest, our lives. We ask you to accept our farewell with kindness. We ask you to rest in your high meadows through the summer. And when the first snow falls again, come back to us. We will be here. And then the ceremony ends. The drums go quiet. The Raula and Raulane are helped out of their costumes, a process that the women of the Sering attend to with great care, returning each piece of jewelry to its proper wrapping, each garment to its proper trunk. The men beneath the masks return to being ordinary men. They will carry something changed in them for the rest of their lives, but they will not speak much about what it was. In Kinnaur, the deepest experiences are not narrated, they are held. The Saunis, meanwhile, have gone, back up to their meadows, back beyond the snow line, back to the places where no human eye can follow, Spring spreads across the valley in their wake. The apple orchards begin to bud, the frozen paths open, the rivers run clear and high with snow melt. Children play in the lanes until dark. The village exhales until next winter, when the first snow falls on the Kunda and the sheep settle quietly in their pens at night. And an inexplicable warmth moves through the frozen air, and everyone in Kinnaur smiles, because they know the Saunis are back.